Welcome to the stage, the 45th and soon-to-be 47th President of the United States, Donald J. Trump.
And I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free. And I won't forget the men who died, who gave that right to me. And I gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today. 'Cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA. From the lakes of Minnesota to the hills of Tennessee, across the plains of Texas, from sea to shining sea, from Detroit down to Houston and New York to LA, where there's pride in every American heart, and it's time we stand and say that I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free, and I won't forget the men who died, who gave that right to me. And I gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today. 'Cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA. And I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free. And I won't forget the men who died, who gave that right to me. And I gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today. 'Cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. This is a nice plant. Outside, we could probably get another 30,000 people. Would anybody like to give up their position? No? I've never had anyone say yes. So someday we're going to meet somebody that says yes. Hello, Wisconsin. It's great to be back in this beautiful state with thousands of hardworking, great American patriots. We appreciate it, too. And, you know, we were up here on Saturday. We had a group, Tommy, I think it was maybe 50 or 60,000 people. And because we were not afforded the luxury of having enough security not because of Secret Service, but because of Washington, I spoke in front of about 700 people, and 50 or 60,000 people weren't able to see. And I think they still love me, but we have to make sure. We have to make sure. And you know what that was? That was the political opponent saying, we don't want him to have a crowd like that. But outside, I'll tell you, we have a lot. This is a different kind of a speech. You know, really, this is a speech on the economics and bringing back business and things. And it's a great plant and a beautiful couple, a beautiful Mr. and Mrs. couple. And it's great to be here. It's really great to be here. It's beautiful. I want to thank Troy Berg and everyone at Dane Manufacturing for hosting us. Thank you, Troy. Where is Troy? Where is he? What a beautiful couple that is. More importantly, I'd like to thank you. That's great. Thank you both very much. Appreciate it. Is he a great owner? Great owner, great everything, right? And what was this 16 all about? Oh, 16. Whoa, he's better looking than you, Troy. That's good. That's great. Thank you very much, everybody. Let me begin by sending our love to every family that has been affected by the Hurricane Helene. I witnessed the damage firsthand yesterday in Georgia, and as you know, North Carolina was just devastated. We can't even get in. They don't have communication. They don't have anything. Towns were flooded. Asheville is, as you know, totally underwater, big place. Massive numbers of lives were lost yesterday, the day before yesterday, and still counting. They have a lot of missing people. The people living in western North Carolina, incredible patriots. They really are. I know that area well, and they're still suffering immensely, and we need to help them, and we are going to help them as citizens in Alabama, Tennessee, Virginia, and a couple of other places got a little hit, but in particular these places, and Georgia was hit very, very hard. But I want to thank Elon Musk for responding to my request that Starlink be provided to North Carolina. You know, and the lines were all down. They had no communication. You couldn't get to North Carolina, the area that was hit. And they were all saying, does anybody know Elon Musk? I said, yeah, I do. I raised my hand. They asked a question. I said, yeah, I know. I said, what's the problem? They said, do you think you could get him to get Starlink, which is amazing stuff, right? Starlink. And I said, I don't know too much about Starlink, but if you want it, we can get it. I called Elon, and they had so many people over there, Tommy. They had so many people over there so quickly, and they have great communication now. But, I mean, it's a terrible. But thank you, Elon, and because of you, they're in really great shape now from the standpoint of emergency needs. And we're going to be going there on Friday. I hope we can get in because it's tough. It's really bad. One of the worst, they say one of the worst hurricanes, maybe the worst hurricane they've ever seen. Some people that have done this for 25 years said that was the worst they've ever seen because of the water. The water was the big one. They had big winds, but the water was the big damage. It just went over the top of houses, if you can believe it. Houses. And people went up to the second floor for safety, and literally the water went over the house. But we mourn all of our fellow citizens who have lost their lives, and we're keeping their families in our hearts, and we'll continue to work with them. But praise be to God. I tell you, it's really incredible. And then on top of that, as you know, the world right now is spiraling out of control. You might not have seen what's happened because it was a few hours ago. A lot of people were here. There's so many people outside, which we appreciate, but a lot of people were here. A short time ago, Iran launched 181 ballistic missiles at Israel, and I've been talking about World War III for a long time, and I don't want to make predictions because the predictions always come true. We're not going to make, but they are very close to global catastrophe. We have a non-existent president and a non-existent vice president who should be in charge, but nobody knows what's going on. She was at a fundraiser in San Francisco, a city that she totally destroyed, by the way. San Francisco was the best city in the country maybe 20 years ago, and today you can't even go there. You can't even live there. And I speak against myself because I own property there. I shouldn't be saying that. I should say it's the greatest place in the world. Let's sell my property. But I say it's... I don't know, maybe it stages a comeback, but it's literally not livable. And 20 years ago, it was the best city in the country, probably one of the best cities anywhere in the world. But she was caught yesterday on an airplane staging a fake photo op. Did you see that with the telephone? The only problem is she didn't have the phone plugged in. She was talking. She's talking on the phone. The phone is not plugged in. She's talking like she's working. I'm working so hard. Oh, boy, what a group. What a group. No one is in charge of our country, and it's not even clear. Really, I mean, who's in charge between the two of them? You have a president, I guess. You have a vice president, I guess. She should have never been chosen because she never got any votes. I'm not a big fan of his, but he got 14 million votes, and that was a coup. Would you say, Scott, that was a coup? If Scott Walker says it was a coup, Tommy, I say it was a coup, okay? But it was a coup. It was terrible, and nobody's ever seen anything like it. And we're doing great in the polls. They just came out with new ones. Rasmussen, we're really good. I mean, it took a little honeymoon. For 4 weeks you did nothing but hear about. She went from being the worst vice president in history. He's the worst president in history. It's the worst administration by far in the history of our country. Look at our border where people are pouring in and they're criminals and they're murderers and drug dealers. Look at what they've done. And then she goes up 5 days ago, and tries to explain that, we're going to do great things in the future. And I always say that everything they say, why didn't you do it 4 years ago? Why didn't you do it? They keep talking. She said, I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to... But she's not going to do any of it. They're incompetent. We can't have another 4 years. We can't have another 4 years of what we went through. It's embarrassing. The whole world is laughing at us. That's why Israel was under attack just a little while ago, because they don't respect our country anymore. The so-called enemy doesn't respect our country any longer. They don't. And, you'll get it back soon, I hope. Thank you. Whoever that is. Who is that person? Who said that? Thank you. Thank you very much. That's very nice. Even though she disturbed my chain of thought. That kind of a disturbance we don't mind, right? But when I was president, Iran was in total check. The Iranians were starved for cash. Nobody was buying their oil. And they were ready to make a deal. They wanted to make a deal. They wanted to do something. And terrible thing. We got more votes in the second election, as you know. We had 2016, 2020. We got millions and millions more votes the second time. And they missed by just a little sliver, right? Somebody said like 19,000 votes. It's just a disgrace. They're not going to be able to do that a second time. They're not going to be able to do that a second time. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris made Iran rich in a very short period of 3.5 years. They have $300 billion now. They're rich. I mean, they pay $6 billion every time they have if they have somebody that was kidnapped. It's always $6 billion. Who ever heard of that? Somebody else gets like $4,000. How much you want? Give me $2,000. You have anything? $6 billion. It's always $6 billion. With Russia, it was $6 billion. And they also got back their spy, the greatest spy, they say perhaps. He was a spy, but he was really more of an arms merchant. And the greatest arms merchant, the greatest buyer of military equipment, they say, anywhere at any time. They got him back, but we got our basketball player back. That was the trade. Well, it is true. She used to tie her sneakers during the national anthem, right? And we got her back, and they got the best. And I'm not saying he's a nice human being, but he was the number one arms dealer in the world for a long time. But Iran was on the verge of bankruptcy. They had no money left. They had no money for Hamas. They had no money for Hezbollah, the people they're fighting now. They would have been willing to make any deal. You could have made any deal, but Kamala flooded them with American cash. And even now, I mean, they're flooding them with cash. It's honestly, it's not even believable. It's like men and women's sports. It's not believable. It's like open borders. Why would they want an open border? It's so stupid. We're the party of common sense, by the way. We are I like to say it all. Forget conservative, yes. But we're the party of common sense, because it's really more common sense than anything else. We want borders, we want fair elections, we want honest elections. And if you don't have those two things, you don't have a country, really. And we don't have a border. We had, coming into our country in the last 3.5 years, more than 21 million people. And many of those people were people you do not want to have in your country. And we'll discuss that in a couple of seconds. But ever since Iran has been exporting terror all over the world, and it's been just unraveling. The whole Middle East has been unraveling, but of course the whole world has been unraveling since we left office. Russia would have never attacked Ukraine. This would have never happened in the Middle East. It wouldn't have been on October 7th. You wouldn't have had inflation. We'll go to a different topic. You wouldn't have had inflation. None of these things would have happened. How about Afghanistan, the most embarrassing moment in the history of our country, in my opinion? Not that we're getting out. I would have gotten out. We were going to get out with dignity and strength, but they get out at the most embarrassing. People falling 3,000 feet off airplanes. The whole thing was bedlam. We lost 13 great soldiers. I got to know their families. And a lot of people, they never talk about the people that lost their arms, their legs, their face, They obliterated, and hundreds of people died. Hundreds of people died that day on the other side, because I count the other side too. But hundreds of people, gross incompetence. You don't take the military out first, let's put it that way. He took the military. Remember, a year ago I brought a young boy who was 5 years old, took him out of the audience, I gave him a quick little study, and I said at the end, so now you know everything about the event. Do you take the military out first or last? He looked at me, you take the military out last, sir. The kid was 5 years old. But we took the military out first, and that's when it came. That was what happened. You know, for 18 months, not one, under my administration, 18 months, not one soldier was shot at. Not one soldier in Afghanistan was killed. And, well, I talked to the league, because they were killing a lot of our soldiers with sniper fire, and they were killing a lot of our soldiers. And during the Obama-Biden administration, and I called the head of the Taliban, because it's the Taliban that really, and they said, how come you're calling him? The press, the fake news, look at all of them. That's a lot of people. That's a lot of people. That's a lot of cameras. But I called his name, Abdul. I said, Abdul, you're not going to do this anymore, Abdul. Anyway, it's a long story. They said, why would you call him? I said, because that's where the problem is, with Abdul and with the Taliban. And it's like Jesse James. They said, Jesse, why do you always go after banks? Why do you rob banks? He said, because that's where the money is. Pretty simple story, right? But that's where the problem was. And since that time, 18 months, we didn't have one soldier killed or even shot at, not one soldier. But they took the military. When they took over, they took the military, and then all hell broke loose. These people are grossly incompetent. And now we have them in charge of potentially World War III. And World War III is going to be like no other if it happens, because of nuclear weapons and other weapons of mass destruction like nobody's ever seen before. I know, because I rebuilt our military. I rebuilt it. It needed it. And I hated rebuilding that, but I rebuilt that too, because we had no choice. But Iran had no money when I was in charge. They had a lot of money when I started. They had no money when I finished. And now they have $300 billion and another $300 billion from their wholly owned subsidiary, Iraq. It's a wholly owned subsidiary. They probably don't like it when I say that, but that's true. Iraq doesn't like it. But they have $300 billion also from oil. Remember, I used to say, don't go into Iraq. Don't do it. To Bush. Don't do it. Don't go into Iraq. But they went into Iraq. Then they were there. I said, all right, you're there. Keep the oil. Just keep the oil. Remember I used to say, keep the oil. You know, Iraq has more oil than almost anybody. It's like massive. But they didn't keep the oil. And they have hundreds of billions of dollars right now. Under my administration, we had no war in the Middle East. We had no war in Europe. We had harmony in Asia. We had no inflation. We had no Afghanistan catastrophe. Instead, we had peace, peace, peace. We had a lot of peace. Think of it. The only war we had was ISIS. And I went to ISIS. I wanted to see what the hell was going on. I went to Iraq. I flew there late at night, the middle of the night. I landed and spoke to a lot of great people. And I spoke to a general, Raisin Cain. You know that story. I won't go into it. But Raisin Cain, General Raisin Cain, a real general. And these aren't like the guys you see on television. These are the real generals. We have unbelievable military. Believe me, we wiped them out in 4 weeks instead of 5 years. It was supposed to take, sir, it'll take 5 years to... I said, we got the greatest planes, the greatest weapons in the world. What do you mean 5 years? So I went over there and I said to the general, I landed. I saw him central casting. These guys are all central casting. Better than anybody that you could get in Hollywood, because they're a little not so good in Hollywood, you know. They don't look quite as tough. And I said, like, what's your name? I'm coming down the stairs from Air Force One. I said, so what's your name? He said, Cain, sir, Cain. Oh, what's your first name? Well, they call me Raisin. I said, what? They call me Raisin. I said, you mean your name is Raisin Cain? Yes, sir. You're the guy I'm looking for. I'm finally finding, Tommy, the guy that I want. I said, how come it's taking so long to get rid of this ISIS? I mean, they fight with knives. By the way, they're great fighters. They are. They're great fighters. Just ask some of their other rivals, but they're great fighters. Well, they weren't doing it the right way, sir, so why didn't you do it the way you wanted? Because it's not up to me. When they came in from Washington, you know, the Millies of the world, stiffs, total stiffs, stupid people. They told us how to fight, sir. But I said, so why didn't you change it? Did you talk? No, sir, we're not allowed to do that. You don't do that in the military. You take your orders. I said, that's a strange. I don't know if that's a good system or bad. In one way, it's good, but in a lot of ways, it's probably bad. I said, so what? Do you know how to do it? Yes, sir, I do. So how long would it take? We've been fighting them for years, and they say it would take 5 years to get rid of them. How long? We can do it in 4 weeks, sir. What? We can knock them out in 4 weeks. I said, 4 weeks? You got to understand, these guys are like central casting. He had a drill sergeant that was better looking and tougher than any guy you could ever put into a movie. You know, we've had a couple of them. Have you ever seen where the drill sergeant goes in and he has these actors, big name actors, and he's trying to teach them how to become a drill sergeant. In the movie, he's a drill sergeant. And after about 5 minutes, the actor said, I could never do that. Because it's a different level, okay, of toughness. And one movie, what was that great movie that was made where a Full Metal Jacket? You know, it's a very, they took somebody from the military, a top drill sergeant, right? Oh, that's good. Stand up. That's great. Full Metal Jacket, right? He was supposed to get the Academy Award. He should have gotten it, but he actually, you know, honestly, he wasn't acting. But he was unbelievable in that movie. So he was teaching, I don't want to use the names, but big stars. And they couldn't, they were really bad. And then one of the producers came in from one of the big studios, MGM, whatever it was, and he saw this guy saying, do it this way, and he's screaming like crazy. They right in the guy's face this far. And he said, I don't think any actor can do that. Anyway, they end up hiring the guy that was supposed to teach. He went through 5 actors, and every one of them was weak and not believable. And he went through 5, and then the guy sees it. He said, maybe we could get this guy, but nobody ever heard of him. He was in the military. And it ended up to be one of the greatest movies because of him, largely because of him. And he was supposed to get the Academy Award, but they didn't, you know, because he wasn't part of the establishment, to put it mildly, right? But he was great. How good was that movie, right? Does it get too much better? That's great. I like that. But now we go in, and he says to me, yeah, 4 weeks, sir. I said, 4 weeks? We've been fighting for years, like, what, 20 years? They said, no, we can do it. Why is it that it was so bad? Well, sir, they wanted to all leave from this major base, but we're very far away. By the time the planes got there, they had to come back. Refueling them was tough, but they had to really come back, so they'd be over there for about just a short period of time, like about 5 minutes, and then they have to start heading back because it's a very long flight. And we didn't have any time, and we didn't have the right aircraft. We were sending wrong. He said, but we have auxiliary bases. We have what we call portable bases, sir. We have portable runways in the desert. Very good. And we got a lot of them, sir. They didn't want to use them because they wanted to be politically correct. I said, so what would you do? I'd use them, sir. And so you tell me you think you can do something in 4 weeks that these people in Washington couldn't do in 5 years? And they said 5 years, and we don't know if we could do it. Yes, sir. How sure are you? 100% you'll have time left over, sir? You got to be kidding. This was a good trip, the great Tommy Thompson. This was a good trip for me, Tommy, because I said, you know, I didn't expect this result. I said maybe 2 years, 3 years. And he goes, no, sir. I said, so what are you going to do? We're going to get to these bases. We're going to hit them from the left. We're going to hit them from the right. We'll hit them from the east and the west and the north and the south. We're going to come from underneath. We're going to come under the ground. We're going to go over their heads. We're going to come from so many different. They're not going to know what the hell. And I'm using a good word because Franklin Graham does not like it when I curse. It's not nearly as good. I keep telling him. I could have used a word that would have shocked the hell out of you. You would have loved it. Then you would have gone home and said, he uses foul language. No, Franklin Graham said, sir, we love your stories. We love you. We love you. But, sir, if you could not use foul language, it would be even better. He's wrong about that. It's not as good. Okay? Not as good. But, not as good. But anyway, and he said, yeah, we'll knock him out. And I won't go through the rest of the story, but the bottom line, it was less than 4 weeks. The guy was unbelievable, and they knocked the hell out of him. And we defeated 100% of the ISIS caliphate, 100% of it. And I tell that story sometimes because we have actually a great military, and we don't have a woke military. I mean, some of these idiots on top are woke. They're politicians more than they are military people. That's why they got there, frankly, which is a little bit sad. You should get there based on military victory, not because of that. But you could keep these people like that fought for me so brilliantly, you could put them in a woke cage. We call it a woke cage for 2 years, scream at them, only woke stuff. And when they come out, they'll say, let's go USA, let's go MAGA. They'll say, we want MAGA. They won't be convinced. They won't be convinced. Tommy, they're not going to be woke. I guarantee that. I met them. They're not wokesters. Anyway, so now war or the threat of war is raging everywhere, and the two incompetent people running our country, or what, I don't actually think they're even running it, are leading us to the brink of World War III, a war like no other. This is what the policies of weakness and appeasement have brought to the world. And as I've been saying for a long time, terrible things can happen. When you have incompetent leadership, really bad things can happen. I mean, there's a story that I just told you about how quickly we took out the enemy that we were fighting for 20 years, close to 20 years. You wouldn't trust Joe or Kamala to run a lemonade stand anywhere, would you? If your child were running a stand, the way I used to run a lemonade stand, I'd say, Mom, outside of my house in Queens, I'd run. There weren't that many people walking in front of the stand, but I ran it. But if I wasn't going to run it, I wouldn't let one of those two run it because they wouldn't have any idea. Like Joe, he was essentially convicted of documents. I was, with all the weaponization, I went through years of hell. And I have the Presidential Records Act lets you do that. But I went through years of this. Well, he had the same thing times 10. And they found him, and he didn't have the Presidential Records Act because he wasn't president, right? And so he was guilty. And they said, okay, he's guilty, but we're not going to hold him to it because he's incompetent, right? That's what they said. Essentially, in a little different language, they said, we're not going to hold him to it, so he is guilty, but we don't think he can stand trial. But he's allowed to run our country, but he can't stand trial. I said, what's that all about? But I said, you know what? If that's the only way to get out, where they find you incompetent, I said, I'd rather be found guilty. I don't want that to be happening. I don't want that to be happening. But they weaponized government. It's no surprise that Iran desperately wants Kamala Harris to be president. They endorsed her. I think they actually endorsed her. I don't know. So did Putin. Putin endorsed her. And he actually endorsed her with a smile on his face. He's going like, no, I think her. Oh, geez. He would want her. He would want her. I don't think he knew exactly what to say. It was very interesting, actually. But he did. He said, because of her experience. Oh, experience in losing. Because they know as long as she's in power, they can take advantage of America like never before. And, for 4 years, this country was respected. I was respected, but this country was respected. Viktor Orban said, if you bring Trump back, he's the head of Hungary, you bring Trump back, there won't be any problems anywhere. We had no problems in the world. But that's why they target me. That's why I'm targeted. I'm targeted by a lot. Iran and targeted, we know for a fact, but probably others. But they only target consequential presidents. They don't target Joe on the beach as he sleeps. He sleeps. How do you fall asleep when cameras are raging, right? You got the paparazzi, you got everybody. He's dead sound asleep. I wish I could have that secret. because, that's a talent. I wish I could do that. Sleep with the cameras. Tommy, could you do that? I don't think Scott could do that, right? I don't think so. But if I were in charge, today's attack on Israel never would have happened. All of the things that we're talking about never would have happened, including that botched withdrawal that made us look so bad. Probably the reason that Russia went into Ukraine. They saw that, and because it was right after that, they saw that, and they said, wow, these people are not what we thought. If I win, we will have peace in the world again. I guarantee we will have peace in the world again. And if Kamala gets 4 more, unthinkable, right? If she gets 4 more years, the world goes up in smoke. This world will go up in smoke. So we're grateful to be joined today by some tremendous people from Wisconsin. I love Wisconsin. We should win Wisconsin. Will you please make sure? Right? If we win Wisconsin, we win. Right, Scott? Now, if we win Wisconsin, we win. It's going to be a big one. And I've done a lot for Wisconsin, The shipbuilding contract, I took such heat from other states. They wanted it, and I gave it to Wisconsin. And they're doing a good job, aren't they? I hear that. Big contract, one of the biggest contracts. They're doing a good job, but I took a lot of heat. And the Keystone XL pipeline, I know you had a lot of people involved in that. What a bunch of stupid people. To think of it, I rejected Putin's pipeline going through. I had it stopped. And I approved the Keystone XL pipeline, also the Dakota pipeline. By the way, isn't it nice to have a guy that doesn't need teleprompters to tell this stuff? Thank you. I'm going through all these names, and it's not part of my thing. I'm going through all these names. You think Biden could do that? I don't think so. He can't remember. I won't say. I was going to almost say his wife's name, but I didn't want to say that. I almost said it. Remember when he called his sister his wife? Some things you can't do. You know what you can't do? I don't want to talk about him because he's gonzo. He's gonzo in many ways. But remember, it's great to be in New Hampshire. And he was in Florida. And you can't Winston Churchill was a great speaker. But if you say, it's great to be in Iowa and it's Idaho, at least that's within the realm, right? But the Florida stuff you can't do with the palm trees, right? But remember he did that? And I was saying, if you were Winston Churchill, he was a great orator. If you were Winston Churchill and you made that mistake, no matter how good you speak you could speak for 2 hours after that, it's over, right? It's over. You will never have a successful speech. But we're grateful to be joined today by a man who's really incredible, respected all over. We'll bring him with us. He's just somebody that really poured his guts out for this state and did a fantastic job. He was a great governor, Scott Walker. Scott, thank you. Thank you, Scott. And another former governor, so respected, he's like the dean. He's the dean. They call him that. And I'll never forget, in 2016, I ran, and he said, sir, you're wasting your time. You're not going to win Wisconsin. I said, I think I will. I made a speech up there at a place. I said, no, he's not going to win Wisconsin. But here's the deal. Remember this? He said, here's the deal. If I think you're going to win, I'll call you back. Otherwise, don't waste your time. Go to Pennsylvania, go to other places that you have to win, which I appreciate. I mean, that's better than, wasting your time. He said, so you're not going to win it, but if for any reason I see a change, I'm going to call you back, and you'll come up and you'll close it up. And he called me about 3 weeks later. He said, it's time to come up. You're going to win this state, right? Tommy Thompson. And we did. That was pretty cool. That was pretty cool. Do you remember that, Tommy? That's pretty cool. Most guys say, oh, come up. Come up. Don't waste a half a day, even though you can't win. It was pretty. I'll never forget that. Sir, get in your plane. Let's go. You're going to win this state. And we did win this state. That was quite a time. Remember that beautiful evening in 2016? That was the greatest I had a 3% chance, and I said, I just not a 3%. I was getting the biggest crowds that anybody's ever had. By the way, they're much bigger today than they were in 2016 or in 2020. But I was getting the biggest crowds. Everything was so. And the fake news had me at 97% chance of losing. And then they have, as we started winning, Florida, Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, all the way up running. It goes from 97 for her. Hillary, Cricket Hillary. She suffers serious case of Trump derangement syndrome, right? But Cricket Hillary. So we go 90, she's got 97, and then it goes, Trump just won Florida, 91, 86, 79, do you remember? And then it got to be 50%, then it got to be 42% for her. And then that's when that crazy woman started screaming, remember, with the glasses? No. She was crazy. I wonder whatever happened to her. She's probably... I just wonder where she is right now. I'd love to find out where she is. She was very famous. The level of craziness with her was incredible. And we did a great job. We had the greatest economy in the history of our country. We did a great job. We also have a candidate for Congress who's really highly thought of, Eric Olson. Eric? Thank you. Thank you, Eric. Good luck. Good luck. I heard you're doing really well. Thanks, Eric. Early mail-in and absentee voting in Wisconsin is underway now, right now as we speak. So don't vote. You got to go as soon as you can and get out there and do the voting thing. Do it any way you want. You can vote. You don't have to vote one way. You can vote another way, but just get out there and vote. A lot of people say vote by ballot, vote by this. You could also go. It doesn't matter. But make sure your vote is counted. We're going to leave nothing to chance and everything on the field. 35 days from now, we're going to win Wisconsin, and we're going to defeat Kamala Harris, and we're going to make America great again, right? Oh, nice. Thank you. And I'm asking every citizen to join me in launching sort of a new golden age for America. We're so embarrassed by what's happened over the last 4 years. It's just a terrible, terrible thing. It's interesting, though, because we had two great elections, the second one being much better than the first. Hard to believe, right? They said, what happened? I said, well, we did much better. But they say that this one, I've just asked some of the people in the back that are here, working here, they said this one is far stronger than number one or number two, and they were good. But this is much, and you know, the reason I don't think I've changed. I don't think I've changed at all. I think what has changed is you've got something to compare it to. And you're seeing the most incompetent administration in history, the absolute worst president in the history of our country. They rate vice presidents too, and she's rated last, but he's rated last. The worst president. Jimmy Carter is the happiest man because Jimmy Carter is considered a brilliant president by comparison. I mean, Jimmy Carter didn't let 21 million people come into our country without checks, without balance, without anything, from parts unknown, from parts of the world that nobody ever even knew existed. And some of them are rough. And we'll talk about that too. But as catastrophic as Kamala's failures are. The good news is that we have a plan to fix it, and we're going to fix it fast. And we have to get these people out, all these criminals that are coming into our country and destroying the fabric of our country. And really, an extraordinary future is within our grasp. We can do it. If we don't do it this time, I think it's going to be gonzo. I'm not even sure you'll ever have another election. These group, they're sick. They're sick. We can soon have soaring incomes, skyrocketing wealth, millions and millions of new jobs, a manufacturing renaissance, and a booming middle class, which is really why I'm here to talk about. That's why I'm in this beautiful factory. We can live in cities and towns that are safe and clean and borders that are sealed and secure. And America can once again be a nation that is strong and confident and free. Together we can reclaim our pride, our dignity, and our glorious American dynasty. We could also, for our children, we can create the American dream again, because there is no American dream right now. But only if we make a clean break from the failures of the past 4 years, the worst administration ever, and elect a man named, have you ever heard of him, Donald J. Trump, on November 5th. Thank you very much. Thank you, thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. If Kamala Harris gets 4 more years instead of a golden age, America will be condemned to a fate of decline, desperation, and despair. That's where we are right now. Your family finances will be permanently destroyed. Your borders will be gone forever. Tens of millions more illegal aliens will invade our cities and towns. You see what's going on with cities and towns all across America. They're devastated. Medicare and Social Security will buckle and collapse because these people are going on to your Social Security rolls, if you can believe it. They can't speak English. They came here illegally, and they're destroying Social Security. And I will never let it happen. And I'll tell you, I never did let it happen. And I didn't do the rage. You know, they want to do, and they're going to do, no doubt about it, a big an increase in age and wage, because what that means is you're going to go way up in terms of when you qualify. So how would you like to say, oh, wow, I was going to be on Social Security now, but I got to wait another 5-6 years because of Kamala. That's what's going to happen. I have no doubt about it. That's what's going to happen because it's under tremendous pressure. They're signing these people just like they're trying to sign them to vote. Frankly, that's the thing it maybe bothers me more. You know, there's a reason why they let all these people in, because they want to get them to vote. That's the reason. So, Wisconsin, if you want to avoid this miserable fate that we talk about for your family and for our country, and then you have to turn out in record numbers. You have to come out in record numbers because she is the worst. And we're going to look at her. We're going to say, Kamala, you have been terrible. You've done a terrible job. You were the worst vice president in history. You shouldn't have even had a chance to run for president. Kamala, you're fired. Get out of here. Right? The Apprentice. The Apprentice. She wouldn't have won The Apprentice, I guarantee. No, we had much smarter people than that. She wouldn't have won The Apprentice. Starting on day one, we will end inflation and make America affordable again. We'll do that. We've got to bring it down. Now, biggest problem, I mean, outside of, the biggest problem to me is always the nuclear problem, because that's, that supersedes everything. That supersedes inflation. To me, that supersedes everything. But outside of that, the biggest problem we have is that's what's happened with pricing. You can make the same or you can make more, but if you went up, if things cost 50, 60, 80, 100% more than they did 4 years ago, people that were saving a lot of money are now losing a lot of money. They're taking the money they saved and they're spending it. So we're going to get those prices down. We're going to start with energy. But if Kamala is reelected, one of her very first acts will be to massively raise taxes on all American families. I never saw a person campaign on tax increases. She openly says we're going to campaign on tax increase. And she wants to get rid of the Trump tax cuts, which were the biggest tax cuts in history. And when you add it together, it's the biggest increase in taxes by far in history. And they call her in San Francisco the tax queen because she used to tax people a lot and run the place very badly, obviously. She's already cost the average family $29,000 with rampant inflation. Now she's coming back for more with a plan to raise typical family taxes by $2,600 a year. So on top of all of the costs that you have, they're not going to go down. They're not going to go down under their plan. Under my plan, they're going to plummet, but they're not going to go down. She wants the largest small business tax hike in history, and many of you own small businesses. In history, by far, eliminating the small business pass-through for tens of millions of small businesses. A lot of people don't know what that is. What it means is your business is worthless. She backed a 33% tax hike on U.S. manufacturers and domestic producers, which would mean jobs fleeing and prices skyrocketing for American consumers. You'll start the whole big inflation disaster all over again. And, you know, what you saw the other day is they, for purposes of politics, they gave you a good decrease in interest rate, but it's okay because you deserve it. The reason they did it, though, is the economy is terrible, and everybody here knows it. The economy is terrible, and that's why they did it. It's probably political, but they probably did the right thing because the economy is absolutely terrible. She wants to drastically raise the death tax. You know what that is? Radically increase the capital gains tax. You know, in the death tax, I have a provision. If you have a small farm or business, you can leave it to your children tax-free, tax-free. She's getting rid of that. I always say, if you don't like your children, don't waste your time applauding. But if you do, does anybody not like their children? No, if you have a small business, you have no estate tax or death tax. And if you have children that you love, that's a big deal. If you have children that you don't care about, you don't want to leave them anything, don't waste your time listening. But to me, I've never had anyone raise their hand. I mean, there must be some people. I've had big crowds. I said, raise your hand if you don't like your children. I think nobody had the courage to raise their hand. But no, it's a tremendous thing. You know, you leave your farm to your children, and before I came along, they'd go out, they'd have to borrow money. It's valuable, but they didn't have cash. And they'd borrow from the bank, and the bank would almost always end up taking it over in a disaster, like a disaster. The parents meant well, and the kids end up losing it because the tax is very substantial. So you don't have that tax to pay. She wants to put that tax back. That's a big deal. And she's pledged to create a brand new wealth confiscation tax on unrealized capital gains, which is one that nobody outside the communist countries, only communist countries think about it, but they don't even do it, which would crash the stock market like in 1929, annihilate the pensions, 401ks, and all of the retirement accounts, and millions of middle-class families and seniors on fixed income would be in tremendous trouble. If you want your incomes to plummet, your net worth to collapse, your tax bills to soar, and your jobs to totally disappear, that doesn't sound too good. Then vote for Kamala, your tax queen. She's a big taxer, and your taxes are going to go through the roof. But if you want Washington bureaucrats to keep their greedy hands out of your pockets and out of your, just leave my money alone. And if you want to have a tremendous history and legacy, and if you want to have a country that's strong and prosperous and great, you're going to vote for Trump, and we'll turn it around very fast. It's not going to be that easy, but we'll turn it around fast. See, we're lucky because underneath our feet we have more liquid gold than any other country. You know, that's always been a big thing. Who has the most energy? We have more energy. We have more oil and gas under our feet than anybody else, more than Russia, more than Saudi Arabia. We go to Venezuela to buy it. It's like they buy it in Venezuela. And they use the strategic reserves. Did you hear the other day? They're the lowest they've been in 50 years because they wanted to keep the oil and gas down for the election. So they've really jeopardized our country because that's meant for war. It's meant for big things, not to keep your prices down a little bit. And it doesn't even matter that much. You lose it so fast because there are so many cars, and it really dissipates it. But they just announced that it's the lowest it's been in many, many decades, and that's really dangerous, actually. We need that for bad times, real bad times. And Kamala's promising the largest tax hikes in American history. Did you ever hear that, Scott, that we are going to give you the largest tax hikes in the history of our country? All my life I've been with I've liked politics, and I've never seen people like this. They announced that they want open borders. They announced that they want men playing in women's sports. And they announced that we're going to give you the biggest tax hikes, not cuts. When I read the story, I thought they made a mistake. I thought it was like somebody did a typo. Cuts instead of hikes. But they are going to deliver you the largest tax hikes in the history of our country, like 40%, 50% more. She said 70 or 80% is okay. And you're going to be a big beneficiary of that. It's a disaster. But I delivered you the largest tax cuts in American history, larger than even the Reagan tax cuts, as you know. And in my next term, we will give you massive tax cuts for workers, families, and small businesses. We're going to go further. That's one of the reasons we were able to succeed, because we brought taxes down and those businesses thrived. You know, we did more business. We cut the business tax from 39% to 21%. Everyone said it was impossible. And you'll see now I'm cutting it down to 15%, but only if you make your product in Wisconsin. Only if you make your product in America. How good. I've had these guys from Wall Street, sharp as hell, call me, where the hell did you get that idea? In other words, we're bringing it down to 15. So 21 made us pretty competitive with the rest of the world. We're competing with the world. But 15 makes you really super competitive. But only if you build it here. And then you have something that she copied but we haven't heard from it since. She can't do it. She would never be able to do it because they have all this legislation pending so that you could go after people with tips. She wanted to go after people with tips. We have the opposite. We will have no tax on tips. No tax on overtime. And no tax on Social Security benefits for our seniors. Oh. Remember that, and she's not doing that. She never will. She never will. She can't do it. You know, remember their promise to, the education was going to get rid of the student loans? That didn't work out too well. And for the students out there, you didn't get it. They talked about it for 3 years. They didn't get it. And just a wasted promise. I just hope everyone knows you're not getting it because they never got it. They said they were going to get it, but I get what we want. I get 100% of what we want. Instead of raising taxes on American manufacturers like this one, we will cut their taxes from 21%, which nobody thought possible, to 15%. So, but only if they make their product here in America and hire American workers for the job. Okay? I think it's great. Good idea, right? And if they don't make their product here, then they will pay a tariff. In other words, if they make their product in another country, their competitors. Right now, I had that all going, and then we had to take care of the COVID situation. We did a great job on COVID, never got the credit for that. I got credit for military. I got credit for economy. We did a great job on that, and an amazing job on that. Nobody knew what the hell it was. The COVID came in, a gift from China, right? But we did, but we had to take care of that. But we were all set. We already did it with a couple of countries, Japan and China and others. But we'll take in billions and billions of dollars and use that money to reduce tax burdens on hardworking Americans. We're going to use the power of the tariff so that when you open your factory and you start producing and you have your low tax, that China and various other countries, not only China, don't come in and steal your business away from you like they did prior to Trump. And Mexico right now is going to town. You have big auto plants being built by China in Mexico. They think they're going to sell cars, make cars by the millions, and destroy Detroit and South Carolina and lots of other areas that make cars. We're not going to let that happen. We're not going to let that happen. We'll put a tariff on those cars of 100 to 200%. We're not going to let them. I don't know if you heard, they're building some of the biggest auto plants in the world right opposite the border. They think they're going to make those cars and put them into our country and pay no tax and drive Detroit out of business. By the way, United Auto Workers, did you see where the Teamsters endorsed Trump? The rank and file, 61%. But the United Auto Workers are at 80% for Trump because they are, let me tell you, they're being sold out by this stupid person they have leading them. Just like I mentioned the Keystone Pipeline, The head of that, I don't know if he's still there, I don't know. The head of the union, we had 50,000 jobs, many of them in this area, from this area. But we had 50,000 jobs of people, all they do is build pipelines. And this guy went along with Biden, and he endorsed Biden. And the first thing Biden did is cut the Keystone Pipeline. I had approved it. It was under construction. We needed it. It was very important. But the rank and file was always for us. And you'll see that a lot. The rank and file wants us. And you have these leaders, if you call them leaders, they're so used to it's almost like by habit or something else. Some other things happen that are very good for them. But they endorse the Democrats. But the people, the workers in this country, they want us. We're going to put them back to work. We're going to have more factories opened here for cars and for other things. And it's a very simple thing to do. And by the way, not so different from what China does. If Elon wants to sell cars into China, they'll say no. But if Elon wants to build cars and sell them to China, they say, come on over, build a plant. We'll even help you build it. We'll finance it. We'll do lots of things. But come over and build your plant in China. India is another example with Harley-Davidson. Harley-Davidson, we know all about. That was terrible. They're building a massive plant, built it in India, because India charges tremendous tariffs. And I once asked, I said, how do you do in India? Not good. Why? Because we have 152% tariff or something. I said, so you can't sell, right? No, we can't. But they said, if we build over there, we'll be fine. So they actually went over there. They built a massive plant. It's not the way it's supposed to work, but you know what? If they play that game, we have to play that game too. We have to do the same thing. It's a very simple game. We want factories to be built in our country, not in other countries. It's going to happen. It's going to happen very fast. And we'll be able to bring the auto business to where it was 50 years ago. And we're going to bring down your energy costs. Your costs are really high here. I don't know what's going on. Oh, that's right. He's not governor anymore. You have a Democrat. I don't know what's going on with energy costs here. Your state's one of the highest energy. We're going to bring down your energy costs from January 20th, the day, if we win, that's the day we take office. We all take it together. We're going to bring them down 50% within 12 months, and it will be easy. We're bringing them down 50% because it's crazy. They're too high. And again, we have more of it. We don't even use it. We don't even go for it. They don't let us take it out environmentally, they spend all their time and energy on the Green New Scam. Do you ever know, though, they don't talk about that anymore. When was the last time you heard about the Green New Scam? They don't talk about it. You know why? Because it doesn't work. They wanted $93 trillion. The ultimate plan was $93 trillion. They wanted to rip down all the buildings in Manhattan, those gorgeous buildings with those big, beautiful windows, and they wanted to rebuild them without windows, because without windows is more energy efficient. Tell somebody you're going to take 40,000 feet of office space, but you have no windows. This is what they want. These people are crazy. They're crazy. Take a look at some of them are actually, you got to see the bathrooms that they project for people. I can't talk to you about it because it's so gross. But basically, water-free bathrooms. Water-free. No water. This is not good. But these people are crazy. But the total for the ultimate package is $93 trillion. You could get China, us, and everybody else on the planet, and you couldn't afford that in 20 years. They really hurt our country because you can't do anything unless you get the environmental approvals. And I'm an environmentalist. I want clean air and clean water, really clean air. Beyond that, we have to have jobs, and we have to have success, and we have to rebuild our country. Kamala's plan will kill the American dream and make inflation worse than it ever was. My plan will bring back the American dream, but bigger, better, and stronger than ever before. That's what's going to happen. We're going to do it fast. We're just 5 weeks away from the most important election in the history of our country. It is. I believe it's the most important election. I used to say that in 2016, most important election. Then 2020, I didn't say because we were doing great. We had a great country. I almost had a logo, remember? Keep America Great. But it was CAG. CAG, Keep America Great. And I sort of like MAGA much better. I don't know if it would have switched. I don't know if CAG would have played well. When Biden used to go out and say, we've got to stop this group called MAGA, We're going to stop. Remember with the purple background and pink background behind it looked like the devil, right? We're going to stop MAGA. I said, Joe, MAGA, make America great again. That's going to be stopped. It's not going to be stopped. It can't be stopped. If it's going to be stopped, you don't have a country anymore. Make America great again. That's all it is. I could be having a nice life right now. Nobody would be shooting at me. I'd be at the most beautiful beaches in the world. I'd have the greatest life. Somebody said, if you had it to do again, would you do it? Because I did. I had the greatest life. I have the most beautiful properties in the world. I really believe I do. But I have the most beautiful. I could have had the greatest, nicest life, none of this stuff. Would you do it again? Absolutely, I do, because we're doing something this special. It's not even close. It's not even close, right? It's not even close. Not even close. I could have been right now in Monte Carlo. But I'd rather be in Wisconsin, if you want to know. It's true. It's true. You know, honestly, there are a lot of rich guys that are in different places. But there's only one MAGA. There's only one group of people like you. There's only one. We're working together. There's only one. This is the greatest movement in the history of our country. And we're going to prove it again. We're going to prove it again on November 5th. It really is. It's the greatest. And, you know, I have to be very careful when I talk, because the fake news, if I say something wrong, a little wrong, if I'm 3% off, they'll do headlines. They'll give me Pinocchios, you know, the Pinocchio. The Washington Post, they give you Pinocchios. If you say something perfectly, they give you a Pinocchio. They always find a reason. But if I say anything a little bit out of order, they say, so I have to be very careful. But I will tell you, we're going to do so great with this country, and we're going to bring it back. But MAGA is the greatest movement in the history of our country. There's never been anything close. You know, you've had some great people. Remember Pat Buchanan, and I think he came in second to New Hampshire. He's a great guy, conservative guy, wonderful guy. I watched him for years and years, and he had a career in coming in second in New Hampshire, I think it was, right? He came in second. And we won Iowa, we won New Hampshire, we won South Carolina, we won everything, and then we went on to win the election. There's never been anything like this. We won 32 states, and then we did better the second time, but we're going to do better than we ever did this time. I think we're going to do better than we ever did. And I don't take day offs. You know, they all say, are you planning any days off, sir? What would your days off be? I say, I'm not taking days off. We have 33 days. I'm out every day. I'm scheduled every single day. I'm not taking days off because we can't. We can't take days off. We have to win. And I've been working a lot of days in a row. I don't know what it is, but we're all over the place. I think we're going to Texas tonight or tomorrow. I don't even ask anymore. I get on the plane. I say, what's my next stop? Sir, tonight we're going to Texas. Congratulations, you know. And we're winning big in Texas, I'll tell you. We're winning big in Texas. 3 days ago, I was in the small town of Prairie du Chien, Wisconsin, where an illegal alien member of a savage Venezuelan prison gang from Kamala, who let them into the country, and this vicious savage was arrested this month. Good law enforcement up there. I mean, I got to meet the whole group. They're great. But was arrested this month for holding a mother and daughter against their will and sexually assaulting them and roughing them up like you wouldn't believe. You don't want to hear about it. What Kamala is doing to our country is criminal, and it's impeachable. And in my opinion, it's totally unforgivable. She's allowing people to come at levels like nobody's ever seen. And the corrupt media is outraged that I keep talking about migrant crime and the migrant crime epidemic. It's the worst thing that's happened to our country in 50 years. They're taking over our small towns and cities. They're taking over our big cities, too. Look at New York. Look at Chicago. Look at Los Angeles. Look at our biggest cities. They can't move. They can't function. The crime is through the roof. And if you fight it, you get indicted. The mayor of New York, you fight it, you get indicted. He was appalled at what was happening, and they indicted him. And I predicted it. I said, he'll be indicted within a year, because I saw he was saying, this is horrible. This is horrible for our city. I mean, we have thousands and thousands of people all over the streets, and they're rough people. They're rough people. And I say they come from prisons. They come from mental institutions. They're terrorists. These are tough people. And I'm outraged that Kamala Harris keeps importing. They keep coming. But the other day, 2 days, she's getting killed in the issue, and I think it's maybe the most important. Right now, it may be the most. To me, it's the most important issue. You know, inflation, we can solve it. So many things we can solve. When you let 21 million people in our country, and let me tell you, if she's here for 4 years, she'll have 200 million people in our country, and they will likewise come from prisons and mental institutions. So I'm outraged that over 13,000, the exact number is 13,099, convicted illegal alien murderers are now on the loose. They allowed to come in over 13,000 murderers, many of them murdering many more than one person. They're murderers. And they're out there someplace. Who knows? We may have a few in the room. Would anybody like to raise your hand? No, think of it, 13,000. It's 240,000 very serious, but it's actually 644,000 major criminals came in with the 21 million people. This is more, you know, if there's a murder, you ever watch, there's some murder escapes jail, they have a dragnet, they have a big dragnet, they're looking all over every city, every state, they're looking. We got 13,000 people that are worse than any criminal that we've been looking for a long time. I mean, you have some of these guys have committed 10 murders, 12 murders. Many were on the death chamber. They're going to be executed. They said, why should we execute them? Do you know the money that they're letting all their prisoners out of jails? They're taking all their gang members in town and they're letting them out. Caracas, Venezuela, crime is down 72%. They're down because they're taking all their criminals and putting them here. I'm outraged at Kamala Harris freed 2 illegal alien thugs who assaulted, kidnapped, and murdered a 12-year-old girl named Jocelyn. You know all about Jocelyn. I'm outraged that Kamala released into America the predator who murdered Laken Riley, beautiful Laken Riley. Is going to be a nurse. She was at the top of her class, always was at the top of her class. Beautiful person, a great family, by the way. I'm outraged that she let in the savage who raped and murdered Rachel Morin. Kamala let her in. She murdered him. In my opinion, Kamala murdered him, just like she did, just like she had a gun in her hand. I'm outraged on behalf of every American family because, remember, Kamala was the border czar. She was appointed. Now she doesn't want that title, but she had that title for 3.5 years. And I'm really outraged when I look at the television screen a few days ago and I see her up there trying to justify how well she did on the border. Worst border in the history of our country, and a bad human being. She's a, as you know, she's a Marxist. Her father's a Marxist. She's a Marxist. And we don't want a Marxist in charge of this country. We would never want a Marxist in charge. A lot of people don't know what a Marxist is. They said, sir, don't use Marxist. They don't know what it is. You have a good enough. Say communist. Would that be easier? We don't need it in this country. We're not going to have it in this country. She's the one, and they're the ones that are destroying our country. You remember with the State of the Union speech, I said, we will never be a socialist country. And I have to always be right about something, so I was happy in only one sense. We will not be a socialist. Beautiful State of the Union speech. I thought I did quite well. Standing ovations, at least from the Republicans, I got to say, but standing ovation. But I said, we'll never be a socialist country. And I was right, because they skipped socialism. They went right down to communism. They went right down, they skipped it. So I was right. So I said, I told you there'd never be a socialist country. I didn't expect that to happen. 425,000 convicted criminal aliens, according to ICE's newly published data, and are now free to roam the United States. They're roaming all over the country. They're here, too. You just don't know it yet. You'll find out. Kamala's agenda is bringing death and despair. Kamala and Joe are crime creators. We are crime fighters. We're crime fighters. We will restore light and hope. and I will make America safe again. On day one of my new administration, the invasion ends and the deportation begins. I will stop all migrant flights to Wisconsin and every other state. Can you believe it? They were saying, no, we're fighting on the border. We're fighting. You know, they had to. They're not really, because they want them to come in. They want them to vote. We're fighting on the border. We're fighting. And then we find out that big Boeing airplanes are flying over with hundreds of thousands of people and dumping them into towns and little cities and states all over the Midwest and all over our country. They're here. They fly in. They're saying how much they're fighting it, and then we learn that they're flying them in. Well, that means that it's a big con job because they're flying them in. They're in airplanes. I will shut down all entries through Kamala's migrant phone app. She's got a phone app. And you know who it's meant for? The cartel heads. The heads. So the cartel heads call the app, and they tell them where to drop the illegal migrants. This is the administration. It's not even believable. But those people back there, the media, are so corrupt, they don't even want to write about it. They don't want to write about it. They're corrupt. I will send in federal law enforcement to liberate every Midwestern town that has been taken over by migrant gangs and criminal alien thugs. We will send them back, and we will take back our country soon. We'll be using local police. Local police, they want it more than I do. They don't want it. These people, these law enforcement people that we have. You know, almost every single law enforcement group in the United States of America has endorsed me. They don't endorse her. Almost everyone. I just shook hands with a lot of the police. Sir, we endorsed you 2 months ago. Like everyone. We will become energy independent and then energy dominant like no country has ever been before. We have more than anybody else. And we will bring energy prices, as I told you, we're going to bring them down 50% in 12 months from January 20th when we take off. And we will terminate the Green New Scam and spend the trillions of unspent dollars on roads, bridges, real infrastructure, and paying down debt, $36 trillion. Not fake infrastructure that's caused massive inflation and no benefit. You know, a lot of the spending they did, this wasteful spending, is the thing that caused it. I think energy caused it, number one, what they did with energy, but I think that the spending was a big factor, too. I will settle the war in Ukraine. Before I even take office, I'll settle it as president-elect. I met with President Zelensky the other day. I know President Putin very well. I'll get it settled. I will end the chaos in the Middle East, and I will prevent World War III, something nobody else can say. And we will rebuild our cities, including Washington, D.C., making them safe, clean, and beautiful again. And we will keep the U.S. dollar as the world's reserve currency. Right now, it's under threat. It's under siege. It's horrible what's going on. If we lose the world's reserve currency, that's like losing a war, isn't it? That would be like losing a war, maybe worse in many ways. Then we would be a third world nation. This is how we will end the era of inflation, mayhem, and misery under Kamala and Joe Biden, Crooked Joe, and unleash safety, prosperity, and peace for Americans of every race, religion, color, and creed. It's so important. We're going to make this country so good, and we're going to do it fast. The hardest thing we have to do is solve the crime problem. The crime problem is out of control. It was out of control before the migrant situation, but now it's crazy. Together, we will deliver low taxes, low regulations. We will deliver low energy costs, low interest rates, low inflation, and everyone's going to be able to afford groceries again, a car again, and a home. You can't afford cars. You can't afford homes. Interest rates have gone from 2% to 10%, but it's really much higher because at 10% you can't get any money, so it's obviously not 10%. They say 10%. I said, you don't get the money, so you have to go higher. We will stop the invasion, end migrant crime, support our great police, strengthen our military, build a missile defense shield, which we're entitled to, keep critical race theory and transgender insanity the hell out of our schools, and we will keep men out of women's sports. We will defend the Second Amendment, restore free speech, and we will secure our elections. Everyone will prosper. Every family will thrive. And every day we will be filled with opportunity and hope. We don't have opportunity. We don't have hope anymore in this country. There's no hope. Your kids, you have beautiful kids, and they don't even know what to do. There's no hope. We're gonna bring back spirit. Spirit is a word, but we're gonna bring back spirit for our country again, and they're gonna have lots of hope, and they're gonna have that American dream back soon. But for that to happen, we must defeat Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris. You can't call her Harris. Nobody knows who the hell I'm talking about. I say Harris has been a horrible vice president. They said Harris. Let's say Harris. Isn't it funny? The name just doesn't care, so we call her Kamala. But we'll defeat her, and we must stop her country-destroying liberal agenda once and for all. She's a radical left lunatic. Remember, early mail-in voting is underway, so vote, vote, vote. You got to get going. And we want to make this election, you know the expression, too big to rig. Too big to rig. Because at a certain size, they can't do it. They're going to say, oh, geez, this is tougher than we thought. Because they have no shame. On November 5th, we will save our economy. We'll save our country. It will go down as the most important day in the history of our country. We will rescue our middle class. We will reclaim our sovereignty and restore our borders. And we will put America first. We will put it first always. We will make America powerful again. Wealthy again, healthy again, strong again, proud again, safe again, free again, and we will make America great again. Thank you very much, Wisconsin. Thank you very much. Thank you.